Okay, so in part 2 of this series, we are going to connect to the employee card to do a head count in our Microsoft Dynamics GP dataset. So here I am with a blank Power BI desktop, and what I'm going to do is go up and choose Get Data and connect to my database. Now this isn't really a how-to on connecting to databases or doing a little bit of setup. I just want to show you what it is that I'm doing to connect and to set some of those numbers up. So it's a little bit of tips and tricks, but not a how-to. So if I'm doing something that you might not understand, then let me know and we can go through and do a little bit more step-by-step guidance. All right, so I'm a big advocate of accessing data from views. The reason for that is if you go to a table directly, sometimes there are going to be things that are not easy to understand. So if you utilize a view, they could be all the data could be linked together for you, so you could just maybe go to one data source. Then you don't have to worry about doing relationships here in Power BI. You don't have to worry about if the field has a 0 or a 1 in it, knowing if that means yes or no or true or false, or if it even is a Boolean field, or even what a Boolean field is. So definitely take advantage of utilizing views. In Microsoft Dynamics GP, the views typically have out-of-the-box names that are readable. Anything that starts with like these or this FX there, that's a function or stored procedure. We do not want to use those. For simplicity purposes, we want to stick with these. So I'm going to just grab from the employee card and choose Edit. And my query editor is going to open. All right, so let's go ahead and pull up our data model. And this particular data set, the employee card, oops, I did not go into query editor. There we go. It has 107 columns in it, and I really don't want that many. I just need to know the employee ID, the employee name, and whether or not, what department they're in, and whether or not they're active or inactive. So if we maintain Belinda's 3 rules, first rule, name your query, something that makes sense, so that if you have multiple queries, you know which one is representing which data set. And employees, I don't know, I might want to just call it employee maintenance, because that's what we call it in GP. And so that way I know exactly what data that's representing. The second thing I suggest doing is narrowing down the columns to what you want to see, because I do not want to have to scroll through 107 columns when all I really want are 4 columns. So I come up and click on the icon itself. If you click on the words, you'll just need to then on the drop-down list select Choose Columns. And I do not want to go through and uncheck all the 100 or so columns I do not want. So I'm going to unselect all of them and then manually select the ones I want. So I'm going to grab the employee ID, first name and last name. I also want department, so I'll start typing in department, and I want inactive, because I want to be able to know the employee inactive date. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So now I have all of my employees listed. There are 29 employees listed in my maintenance window, and you can see some of them are indeed inactive. So that's pretty cool. There are 2 inactive and the rest are active. Okay, I have my employee ID, last name, first name, and department. And the third step of Belinda's 3 rules are verifying and resetting the data type for all of these. Now all of these happen to be text, and they're all showing up as text, but I still like to go ahead, verify them by setting the data type. It's a very simple process, and it can save you some grief, and it's a great way of reviewing and understanding what data type each data column is, because when you pull it out on the desktop without a visual being there, how it's going to respond to that visual and what options are going to be available to you are going to depend upon how the data type is set. So let's go ahead and verify those while we're at it. And I'm going to just go ahead and reselect all those as text. And that way, if something comes in with a number, Power BI won't go, hey, wait a minute, I don't know what this is. So I'm going to reset it to any. And now my step is saying, hey, go back and put it in as a number. Now, the next thing I want to do is merge these 2 together. But before I merge them together, I want to make sure that there is no blank spaces at the end, because I don't want to see last name with a bunch of spaces and then a comma space, first name and a bunch of spaces. So under transform, because these are text columns, I'm going to come to the text area, And under Format, I'm going to choose Trim. I could have also right-clicked and chose Transform and Trim. Now that I have these trimmed, I'm going to go up to Merge Columns, and I'm going to find what I want to separate them with. Now, comma space is not an option, so I'm going to choose Custom, and I'll put in a comma space, and we'll just call this new column Employee. Great. And you might want to go through and rename the steps so you know which ones they are. So I'm going to rename, right mouse click over here on Applied Steps, and rename this to Merged Employee Name. Great. And now that I have a new field, I might just want to err on the side of caution and reset that to text as well. So now I have my columns as I want them to be. So I'm down to 4 columns instead of 107. So I'm going to come back over and close and apply. And so now you can see I started out with 107 columns over here. Now it's much easier to choose which ones I want to select. So I'm going to just start by dragging out the employee ID. And because it's text, it's going to start with the table visualization. And that's the way I want it to work. Now I'm going to drag department next to it. And actually, let me put department first. So now I have my departments and I have my employees listed. So if I want to count these, I'm just going to click on the drop arrow for employees and tell it, rather than summarizing, do a distinct count. So now I can see how many employees I have in each department. And if I want, what I could also do is come over. I'm going to just drop inactive here. Again, this is a string, so it automatically pulls up as a table, but I'm going to change this to a filter. So now when I look at active employees or inactive employees, I can see there are 2. And if I want to look at active employees, I could see there are 27. So this is how I achieve the results of seeing how many employees there are by using the data that's in the employee maintenance window. Now keep in mind that this is only going to show me as of the time of refresh. So if I come in and I pull up an employee who is inactive and I reactivate that employee right now, and I go in and refresh my data, then that's going to change my result set. But that is as of right now. So even if I'm sitting here on the 28th of January and I refresh and I reactivated them for September, then that's going to change my results. So you need to think about, you want to see how many employees you have as of when. If it's always as of now, then this is a great way to do that. However, if somebody is split among departments, it's not going to show you that they're split among departments because this is only going to show you the default. The employee maintenance card only shows the default department and the default position. I could have specific pay codes that are set up for multiple departments and I could be split. I could also be a part-time employee, and in that case, do I want to be counted as a full employee or do I want to be counted as a half an employee if I work, let's say, 20 hours a week? Stay tuned where I talk about adding payroll headcounts utilizing the GL unit accounts. Hope this helps.